Please welcome back the fabulous Diane Sawyer. This is really a remarkable documentary because he was a staple in our lives. I mean, I think of all the facets of Richard. Right. You know, there were so many, but for decades he helped really millions of people change their lives and lose weight. And in the special, you say he had a superpower. What do you think? Why do you think it was a superpower?
Interesting that you use the word facet because I call him a human disco ball.
Yes. Yes.
And he came in the room with such light and joy and music. But the superpower was his mission, which was everybody of every size needs to love themselves back to health. And he was going to make it happen. And he, as you know, he traveled the country. He phoned people at home at night. He wrote you letters. He was not going to give up on the hope you may have given up on for yourself.
He came on this show quite a few times. It was always fun to have him. But you say in the special that the drive to help people stemmed from him being bullied as a child. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it was the fuel. You know, he was a small kid. They didn't have a lot of money. And he was bullied by kids who had baseball bats, by the way. Kids who were so hard on him, he didn't want to go to the bathroom at the school because they could be waiting for him, because he loved show tunes. No question that the memory of that and the memory of how he felt as an overweight little boy, and he was seriously overweight, trying so hard to lose that weight, was the nuclear fuel that stayed inside him the whole time.
Wow. Well, Richard's brother and sister-in-law invited you into his home where he passed away 2 years ago. And I understand nothing's really changed. So what was it like going in there? What did you see?
Well, again, it was not at all what I expected. First of all, remember, it was 10 years in that home. We didn't see him. The door was closed. He didn't come out after this long life at the top of the world. And I walked in, and I say it's a kind of time capsule of innocence and childhood. And around you are fluffy clouds and angels and dolls, babies in their mother's arms, crosses on the wall. And you understand it was the place that he could go, and maybe feel safe? Feel he had an inspiration of his own, you know. He'd wake up every day and the first thing he could see were these affirmations that were painted on the wall. The only life worth living is a life lived for others, was one of them. And so each day, while he was giving other people reasons to believe in themselves, he needed something to believe in himself.
In 2014, Richard retreated from the public eye, and there were so many conspiracy theories about where he was and if he was being held captive, and there was even a viral podcast called Missing Richard Simmons. Now, in the special, we hear from his inner circle about where he was for those 10 years. What can you tell us about that?
We tracked down the people who were there with him, as many of them who would speak to us, and Teresa Reveles, who was his beloved housekeeper, is talking for the first time about a lot of the things that happened inside the house over all those years. And, you know, it's one thing not to want to be seen. It's one thing to think you don't look like the Richard Simmons everybody remembered. But I think it's another thing to be afraid to go out, to be afraid maybe the old ridicule, the old wound. And I want everyone to watch it and see this arc from his childhood, this arc across his life, and maybe you can give a name to what it was that had happened to him.
Well, 10 years later, in 2024, he was finally ready to be seen again, and he called you. He wanted you to shepherd his story. What do you think motivated him to finally be ready to come forward? And can you tell us about the phone call?
Oh, yes. Well, you know, it's how I got to be part of this story. I mean, I didn't wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to talk to Richard Simmons. But we had all tried to see what was going on in the house. And then at one point, he sees something on television. Somebody is going to do a biopic of his life. Oh, no. And he goes, oh, no, you're not going to do like satire of my mission, of what I believed in with my whole heart. And he decided, he first of all sent out an email, and there was a flood of uninterrupted love for him. And he was so shocked that people still loved him, and they cared about him and remembered him. And he called me. First of all, I get vase upon vase upon vase upon vase. I'm full Richard Simmons, flowers. Each had the same note, I trust you. I trust you. And then we talked on the phone about what he wanted to do. And he was going to write lyrics. He was in the middle of writing lyrics feverishly for a Broadway play, he had decided. When he decided he was coming back effervescent.
Bigger than ever.
Exactly. And I loved that he told me he was going to move all the seats out of the front of the theater so people could come down and dance. Sweating to the oldies.
Yes. Well, Richard passed on July 13th, 2024, one day after his birthday. And I understand in the documentary, we're going to hear from his housekeeper for the first time, who was with him when he passed, but also from his family about what really caused his death. There's obviously speculation. What can you tell us about what we learned?
Well, what we do know, and his housekeeper is very moving about those times, what we know is there was a serious fall. And that he was immobilized and he was lying on the floor for hours. And the medical examiner, the coroner, is very non-detailed about what really happened, but we do know that when you fall and you have that kind of lingering immobility on a floor, that it can cause things like kidney damage, strokes. We don't know exactly which one it was, but we do know that it was not a heart attack. It was not substance abuse. We know he was the same weight he always was, and that it was the result of this fall. And it just, again, leaves you wondering if he had not been afraid to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
If he had been willing to go to the hospital, would everything be different today?
You know, I find that somehow there are a lot of folks like that. If they've been in the public eye for a long time and then they disappear. We know folks who have disappeared and just did not want to be seen. And you will always want to say, well, I'm looking at you, you're fine. But how they see themselves and how you see them are totally different things.
That's right. And again, we remember this little boy, and he knew what ridicule felt like. And to be afraid of what everyone would say if he walked out. And he was no longer, somebody says that he was the cheerleader, but maybe without the pom-poms.
Thanks to Diane Sawyer. For the Mystery of Richard Simmons, a Diane Sawyer special airs tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on ABC, and it streams the next day on Disney Plus and Hulu.